Canonical Star Wars source material describes the Jedi as following a religion.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side.
You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion.
Just like me, they're the last of the Jedi religion.
And the Jedi certainly are religious-ish. They're basically monks. They live a celibate life in the Jedi Temple, they dress in brown Jedi robes, and they have
the sacred Jedi texts! Ooh.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, they have the sacred Jedi texts too. But the Jedi religion seems to have jumped from fantasy to reality as a real-world movement called Jediism. Take the Temple of the Jedi Order, for example, an online community that claims to be a legally recognized Jedi Church and ministry of Jediism. According to their website, Jediism is a religion based on the observance of the Force. Jedi, or Jediists, live by 3 tenets of focus, knowledge, and wisdom, and they hold to the Jedi Code, a mantra that developed out of Star Wars novels and video games in the 90s. And unless these people are deeply committed to an ironic online persona, they appear to take their identity as Jediists very seriously. On their forum, you'll find members helping each other with meditation techniques and debating the existence of force powers such as telekinesis. Most forum members regard force powers as scientifically baseless, but others seem more open to their existence. And this religion doesn't only exist online. Another group, the Church of Jediism, hosts meetups in real life at conventions and even offer Jedi wedding services. But many people don't consider Jediism as a real religion, and I think it's partly because it first hit headlines as a joke answer on the census in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. In the 2001 UK census, almost 1% of the population of Wales and England claimed that their religion was Jedi. The meme continued even 10 years later. In 2011, over 170,000 people claimed to be Jedi. No doubt many thousands, if not most of these people wrote this down as a joke. But even for the serious Jediist, they've run up against government bureaucracies refusing to acknowledge their status as a religion. In 2016, the UK government rejected an application for Jediism to be registered as a religious charity, saying it lacks the necessary spiritual or non-secular element of a religion, whatever that means. I'm arguing against the UK government. Jediism is definitely a religion, at least in the way it manifests on these internet forums. Religious communities that draw from pop culture like Jediism are simply engaging in the same sort of cultural production that humans have been doing for thousands of years, endlessly adapting and reworking culture as the raw materials for their religions, adapting beliefs, gods, myths, and rituals into new forms. What does make Jediism different, though, is that the raw materials come from copyrighted property. The rise of intellectual property law following the Industrial Revolution has definitely changed how religions develop, because cultural production has been locked up into the hands of authors, publishers, or corporations. The scholar of fandoms and media culture, Henry Jenkins, argues that these new structures of ownership diminished our ability to participate in the creation and interpretation of culture itself. Imagine if Zeus was a trademark character in ancient Greece. How many lawsuits would have been served against later Greek and Roman authors? Or if the Hebrew Bible was copyrighted, Jesus and the Gospel writers would have been collecting a bunch of cease and desist letters. Religious innovators have always drawn from available culture. That's so obvious it almost goes without saying. But while spiritual exemplars like the Buddha and Moses belong to the people, spiritual exemplars like Yoda and Obi-Wan belong to a corporation. Nevertheless, this has not stopped grassroots attempts to create new religious expressions from pop culture. In fact, it's a whole subcategory of religions that sociologists call hyper-real religions. Innovative religions and spiritualities that mix elements of religious tradition with popular culture. Hyper-real refers to the attempt to make experiences more intense and fantastic than daily life. Hyper-real experiences might include VR simulations or amusement parks, for example. I would also call Jediism a form of syncretism, or religious mixing. People draw religious inspiration from pop culture and graft those rituals, narratives, and symbols from these franchises into their own religious lives. In fact, a lot of the doctrine on some of these Jediist forums seem to be syncretized with forms of Christianity. But it's not just Star Wars. We see similar new religious movements syncretizing elements of Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and The Matrix too. In the the early 2000s, communities started to form calling themselves matrixists. And many pagans today have adopted elements from Harry Potter, too. A group of women, for example, calling themselves Snape wives or Snapists, have built a religious identity around the character Snape as a guide to their lives. These fandoms are what Henry Jenkins calls participatory cultures. Cultures where fans are not just consumers of media, but co-producers of media. Star Wars culture doesn't flow only from Disney and Lucasfilm. People write fan fiction, they cut up the movies into super popular fan edits, and create fan films so popular that even major corporations get worried enough to send cease and desist orders, like what happened when CBS cracked down on the Star Trek fan film Axanar. The thing that's so powerful about participatory culture is that regular people can gain social capital and prestige even though they operate outside of the official power structure. Kathleen Kennedy wields a great deal of power as the president of Lucasfilm, but now, because of the internet, regular fans can climb the social ladder in the fandom, becoming famous fan designers like Fractal Sponge, or masters in an online Jedi Church. Most of these hyper-real religions exist almost entirely online, which the UK Charity Commission noted as a strike against Jediism being a real religious organization. But a cyber religion is no less of a religion. Religion is endlessly adaptable, and religious communities have been adapting to the internet for decades. Sociologists of online religion have studied how churches form communities on Facebook groups, or even in virtual reality prayer rooms. There's also a class of religious YouTubers who position themselves as modern-day prophets, using the medium of video blogging to make predictions about the future or to disseminate their interpretation of scripture to their followers. Jediism is just doing what more mainstream religions have been doing for over a decade now, meeting in digital spaces like subreddits, Facebook groups, and YouTube channels as a way to live out their religious lives. Using Henry Jenkins' terminology, I'd call Jediism a grassroots cultural production. Even though it seems like a uniquely modern phenomenon, even though Jediism uses the raw materials of copyrighted intellectual property, Jedi churches are the result of the same strategies people have always relied on to create new religions, and it's a good example of why we should include digital spaces in our study of religion in the 21st century. As always, thanks for watching.
And may the Force be with you.